listening to Out of the Box Podcast with Rosie Tran. Out of the Box is sponsored by hugmetees.com. Spread love, give a hug, hugmetees.com. Guys, I'm so excited to announce that we'll be at the LA Pod Festival September 19th at 7 p.m. We're actually the main event, so check it out. It's going to be at the Sofitel Hotel in Beverly Hills. And tickets are $59 for that night, and you will get to meet me afterwards. I'll be sending autographs and guests to be announced, but it's going to be a really big 3-day festival, and we have some of the top podcasts all over the country. So it's going to be awesome. Check us out at lapodfest.com, and I would love to meet you guys. As always, we are on Stitcher, iTunes, and SoundCloud, and if you can't come to LA Podfest, then you can live stream it at lapodfest.com. The live streaming is $25, but you get a lovely $5 coupon if you enter coupon code ROSIE. So I'm really excited about that. I am here today with Transformational Life Coach. He also has a book coming out this year called, I'm going to mess this up, so I'm going to have him do it. Something with skinny branches, that's important. Living on the skinny branches. Michael Strasner.
Good morning.
Good morning, Michael. Did I mess it up?
Living on the Skinny Branches is the name of the book.
I was like, wait, something about climbing on skinny branches. And you're excited. Is this your first book?
It is my first book, yes. After 30 years of being in coaching and transformation, I got clear on what I wanted to write my book about and how I wanted it to flow and put it together in the last year.
Awesome. And so we'll be looking for that, and it should be available on Amazon and other places where books are available.
Yes, in the next couple of months, it's going to be out.
Awesome. Well, we look forward to your launch, and we're excited about your book. So you're a transformational life coach. What is transformation for those of you who are listening who are like, what are they talking about?
Well, I think that transformation is a word that's used a lot in the marketing and advertising world today, and it's also sort of a common word. But I've been in the work of transformation for about 30 years, and really what it is it's an opportunity for people to look at how they're living their lives, look at what they're doing in their lives, and then become aware of other choices that are possible for them. So, for example, you could go to a workshop, and in the workshop you do exercises, you do activities, and in those exercises and activities, you see how you participate. You see what you normally do, what your habits are. And then through the different coaching that you get and the coaching that's available to you, you could see other possibilities on how you could do things more effectively. You could see other ways for you to express yourself, other ways for you to be, and then work on those in your life. When you work on those in your life, then like anything else, they become new habits.
Awesome. So it sounds like a way for people to become more effective in their life. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yeah, it's a way for people to become more effective. And I think a lot of people use the word transformation, but it's not really transformation. To me, transformation is somebody going from being a shy person, an introvert in their life, to taking risks, being courageous, speaking up. That's a transformation. A transformation is I think beyond effective. If I'm effective or more effective, then basically it's a little bit more or a little bit less or a little bit different than what I normally do.
Transformation is something totally out of your box, right?
Yeah, it's something totally out of your box, like your podcast.
I think that's important to know because, some people maybe take a class or a seminar and they'll walk on hot coals or something. Yeah. And they're like, oh, I did something, for 5 minutes that was like crazy and outrageous for me and I'm transformed. And that's not it.
No, what it is some of those can be, let's call it transformational experiences or moments where maybe they think they're transformed. But transformation really is something when you alter the way that you're living your life or you change the way that you're being in your life and you implement it into your everyday life, and people see those changes. People acknowledge those changes, and your results are completely different as a result.
Mm-hmm. Now, are people's results always different? Because sometimes someone might, for example, have a very successful external life. Maybe they're making a lot of money, they have the image, but internally they feel really bad about themselves, right?
Yeah, I think that's in a lot of cases. I think most people that are perceived to be successful based on, let's call it, our culture's interpretation of success. Mm-hmm. So ever since I was a kid, I'm 50 years old now, but ever since I was a kid, I remember going to school and listening to my teachers and adults always talking about how do you define success. Success is having a college education. Success is having a good job. Success is being married with 2 children and a house with a white picket fence. So over the last 30 years, I can tell you I've met thousands and thousands and thousands of people that have exactly that, but they're not happy. It's almost like if they were going to speak what they're really feeling, it's if this is it and this is supposed to be it, this isn't it. Something is missing. And really often what that is what's missing is a purpose in their life, a vision in their life, something that is beyond the results. It's more like an experience. So you can have a relationship, but it doesn't mean you're in love. You can have a job that makes a lot of money, but it doesn't mean you feel worthy, or it doesn't mean that you feel challenged intellectually where you're growing. So I think that results are often a misinterpretation, and people use it in a way that's really not healthy for them. So I'm not saying I don't want people to have results, and I'm certainly not saying I don't want people to have extraordinary things, but that doesn't necessarily mean they're going to be happy. So transformation really is when we alter how we see ourselves and how we feel about ourselves so that it can also show up in not just the results, but our experience of living.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's really important because a lot of times, people will take these true transformational workshops, not just the phrase, like you said, or walking on coals or whatever. And then they'll have this amazing experience, and they'll feel changed in their life, and they'll start to work on themselves, what I call working on yourself. And their family and friends will say, well, I don't see any quote unquote difference. Yeah. I don't get it. What did you do in that class? I don't get it. You don't seem different. Yet they'll feel more self-worth, more value, happy, whatever. Right.
Well, and that happens often. The thing is also, going back to the culture, we don't live in a culture that supports transformation or personal growth. We live in a culture that really supports keep it down.
Okay.
so if you
don't be too awesome.
Yeah, exactly. Tone down the awesome. It's like I play golf. I'll give you a good example. I play golf, and I belong to a golf club, and I have a bunch of guys that I play golf with, and not all, but almost everybody's married, and they refer to their wife as the wife.
Or the ball and chain or whatever,
yes.
Right?
I don't even know half their names. I just know it's the wife or this thing. And the thing is, we play golf, and when I'm done playing golf, I can't wait to go home because I love my wife. Love is not just like a thing. Love is not a concept. It's not something I answer like on a pop quiz. It's something I feel for her. So I want to be with her. It doesn't mean I don't want to play golf and I don't want to hang out with my friends. I do, but at some point it's like, okay, I've been out here for 4 hours. It's time to go home and be with my wife, who I also love and I want to be with. They are going to be in the club. They're going to drink, beers, and they're going to have food. And then it's almost like anything but getting home to my wife.
They're avoiding the wife.
Yeah. So what I'm saying is we don't live in a culture that supports being in love. I don't think I've ever heard one of the guys that I play golf with call their wife or receive a call from their wife while we're playing golf and use the words, I love you, honey, or share it or express it in a way that's genuine. It's almost like this. Yeah. Why are you bothering me? You know I'm playing golf. And then they'll get off the phone. I'll say, so how long have you been married? Oh, we're going to celebrate our 50th anniversary. And I'm thinking to myself, wow, she must really be excited about being with you.
And also, like you said, this society kind of, it's uncool, right? I know all the time I'll tell my husband, oh, I love you so much and you're so sweet. And I love seeing other couples in love. I actually thrive off of it. But I know so many people who say, oh, get a room. Oh, come on, guys, really? Or, well, you guys are still newlyweds, so you're in the love phase. It'll wear off after 10, 15 years. I'm like, that's really not nice.
Yeah, and it is. And there's a lot, unfortunately, in our culture, there's a lot more of that. It's cynicism. It's a cynicism. Like, look at the presidential campaign right now, the Republicans that are running. So the other night there was the Fox debate, and all the Republicans were on the stage. The top 10 of them were on the stage. It was the largest audience ever to watch a presidential primary debate. Why? Because Donald Trump is up there. And Donald Trump is up there calling women names and saying, this guy's a loser and everybody on this stage is a piece of shit and I would never vote for any of these people and, all this stuff. And what's interesting is he's so popular. He's so popular. And it's kind of scary because that's the tone I think that represents a lot of the conversations out there. And I think it's just a matter of cynicism and people not being happy with where they are in their own lives. Why would I say to a couple that's in love, get a room, unless I'm jealous or unless I really want that for myself and I don't have it, or it's uncomfortable. How about that? It's uncomfortable to see people in love, but
because maybe you're not in love, or that's something
or not where I want to be in my own life. But the thing is that that's what's possible. That's what transformation is. When I say I'm a transformational trainer or I'm a transformational coach, what I really am saying is I work with people to create the life they want, not the life they have, not the life they think they're supposed to have, not the life that is good or good enough to get by, but I support people and coach people and work with people to create the life that they truly want, something that they're passionate about. So when they get up, they jump out of bed. They get up, they're excited about whether it's their wife or their husband or their job, their children, and they bring all of themselves to those relationships and to those commitments. That's where the juice in life really is. Unfortunately, we have a culture that celebrates happy hour, and if you go into happy hour, honestly, tell me who's happy in happy hour.
I don't think I've ever been to a happy hour.
I mean, if you go to happy hour at 5 o'clock, right, on Friday
people
afternoon.
That are getting off of work, they're unhappy, they're miserable, they're trying to get happy, right?
Right. What are they talking about there? They're talking about how life sucks, life's hard, my job is horrible, I hate my boss, women suck. Hey, let's get a shot. Let's toast to how women suck. And we can't wait to meet with them tonight. I mean, it's such a contradiction that we need to have alcohol or some sort of a
stimulant.
Right? Stimulant to get me fired up and excited about my life.
Well, let's talk about what you just said. It was very, very profound. You said, I want them to work with their lives to bring that into a relationship, because a lot of people think the problem is, say I'm married with someone for 50 years and I'm referring to him as the hubby or whatever, is it's the hubby's fault. Right. And so I need to get rid of the hubby. I need to get rid of all this stuff and get a new life. And that's how I'm going to transform my life. And what you're saying is that you can have what you currently have and transform those relationships. Is that what I was hearing?
Yes. Now, not in all cases, of course, but I will say that let's just look at statistics for a minute. Number one, 60% of all first marriages end in divorce. That is a statistic here in America. Here's the illusion. The illusion, as you just said, is that if I get out of this, there's something better, greener pastures. There's a better relationship. There's a better job. The job is the problem. They're the problem. He's the problem. I just need to change scenery. And let's look at the statistics. 82% of second marriages end in divorce. So if 60% is first marriage, 82% is second marriage, it's not getting better. It's getting worse.
Okay.
I mean, that's
so
just a
what's
fact.
the common denominator?
The common denominator, of course, is me.
Yeah.
And part of transformation is I have met the enemy and it is I. It's looking in the mirror and being honest with myself and looking in the mirror and telling the truth about what I'm creating, how I'm causing this to happen. And look, it's not about blame. It's not about fault. It's about responsibility. And responsibility is my ability to see that I am generating this situation. And if I can see that, then I don't have to have a staff meeting to figure out what to do about it. I just need to have a meeting of one. Michael, what do you want and what are you going to do? Michael, how did I cause this breakdown with my wife? I mean, I just had a little tiff with her the other day. We have very small breakdowns, and they're usually something like this. She wants to do something to please me. I want to do something to please her. And now we're in a tug of war. Who wants to please who? I mean, I know it sounds a little bit silly, but it's true. And so the other day we had to talk about it so we could clear it up, because both of us wanted to make the other person happy, and both of us were committed to giving to the other person. And we essentially got in our own way about it. And it was over dinner. Where would you like to eat? Oh, babe, I don't care, wherever you want to eat. Well, I don't really care. I love you. You just had a long day at work. What's going to make you happy?
You're both gritting your teeth. Where do you want? What do you want? What do you want?
Exactly. And so it kind of built up into this thing. And then it was like, okay, well, I'm not even hungry now. I mean, it was like one of those. And I'm like, okay, so I looked at myself and I said, okay, Michael, what could you have done differently to not get to this point? I didn't say, God, Hillary, you're such a bitch. I mean, What I could have done differently is not have you be a bitch, and then life would be easy, right? So that's what most people do.
And some people do that.
Yes, they do. They call their friend and they say, hey, you know what? My wife is a bitch. Yeah, she is. You should have heard her at the Christmas party last year. And so we live in this conspiracy of creating victim conversations and blaming and getting into who's wrong. And how does that support us ever in resolving anything?
The issue, yeah.
Yeah, it never supports the resolution of the issue, never supports growth, never supports having any kind of breakthroughs or new possibilities, and then relationships die. See, I always look at it as that relationship doesn't die. At some point, I died in the relationship. I stopped living. I stopped giving. I stopped being vulnerable. I stopped caring and showing that caring and demonstrating that caring. And if we do that, I'm not saying it's a guarantee that every relationship will work out, but statistically, I'm certain it will. And here's how I know. I've been a trainer for 30 years. I've coached hundreds of thousands of couples in relationships who began the workshop in a breakdown. Such a breakdown where this is our last straw. We've done everything we possibly can do.
We're on the verge of divorce or whatever.
Yes, and they're together today. 5 years later, 10 years later, 20 years later, 30 years later. I've seen them. They contacted me. They've communicated with me over a period of time afterwards. That as a result of their transformation, as a result of changing the way that they saw themselves, or changing from being a victim to responsible, that they could actually create the love and recreate the passion in the relationship, and they have. So I know it can be done, and I know that if we did that, then statistically the results would be better out there.
Now, do you think that this way of thinking that is a conditioning, like cultural conditioning or a familial conditioning, where people are learning to think a certain way? For example, if you grew up in a broken home or you grew up with a divorced parents, that's the narrative you learned. And even though, people can be narcissistic and say, well, I can do better than my parents, they didn't actually learn the tools to be better than their parents, right?
Yes, I think that people, first of all, our fundamental experience and knowledge and awareness of relationships come from our environment and the way that we're raised. So if we're raised in a healthy environment, even if our parents are not together, but
yes,
let's say that they have a healthy relationship regarding parenting. Mm-hmm. If we're raised in a healthy relationship, whether it's a gay marriage, whether it's a divorced couple that are co-parenting, whether it's a mom and dad
even
that
if
are still
it doesn't look
together,
like the picket fence, but it's healthy.
Yeah, as long as it's healthy and communication is consistent and being present and showing love and showing caring, but also having there be discipline, teaching values and if everybody's on the same page, then we get a foundation of how to be when it comes to relationships. And if we don't get that, then of course we have the results we have. Look at how many parents get divorced now, as I said about the divorce rate. Look at how that affects children. And then you see so many people who, I never talked to my ex, or I never talked to my, to so-and-so's father. They even say to their children, think of this subtle message: call your father, or
bad mouthing the
ex,
ex,
or saying he's a jerk, or he's this,
he's
or
a
he's
loser,
a that.
she's a slut,
she's
a
crazy,
loser.
or those kinds of things really affect children because they are not involved in the marital relationship. They're involved in father-son, father-daughter, and they look up to their mom or their dad, but in most cases as somebody that they see as a hero and a role model. So that definitely affects our view. Another thing I want to say is social media. When I was a kid 30 years ago, 40 years ago, there were things I'm sure happening in the world, but we didn't hear about them. Like John F. Kennedy, when he was president in the early 60s, now everybody knows he was having an affair. Mm-hmm. Now he's been dead for like 50 years, but because of social media now, people talk about it. Historians have talked about it. He used to have Marilyn Monroe, I guess, come into the White House, and he had other.
So that was not a well-known thing, because I know about that, but that was at the time it was not well-known.
Yeah, it wasn't well-known, and it wasn't well-known because there was no TMZ, there was no 24-hour day cable news, there was no National Enquirer, there was just no
Facebooks and retweets and everyone,
all of it. And so there was some knowledge about it, but it was a hush, like okay, you don't talk about that because you could disrespect or you could cause a breakdown for the president.
Yes.
So over time, times have changed. Now it's no longer oh, so-and-so is having a breakdown in their relationship. No, now it's front page news.
They're dragging it through the mud, right?
She threw all of his stuff out of the house. They got cameras. Look at this video. You know, this woman is chucking all of his stuff out from the balcony. You know, and it's a cheering section outside. So it's a whole big drama.
So, yeah, I think it's really important, you know, because I think a lot of people, they have children and they don't take into consideration those relationships, or they think that it's segmented, it's different. You know, well, I was a bad husband or I was a bad wife, but I'm a good father, so my kids aren't seeing this and it's not affecting them.
Well, that's the illusion we all live in. I have to say, just speaking from my own experience, you know, when I was a kid, I knew that my mother had issues. And, of course, everybody in my family, at least I thought, had a conspiracy that it was me. In other words, so whatever the issues that you think you have, Michael, with your mother, it's about you. So I'm there as a child, 10 years old, in my room, completely confused, thinking, you know, my mother's got this problem, my mother's got that problem, and she's not nice, or she treats my brother Larry better than me, and da-da-da. And I'm making up all these conversations in my mind, and I had nobody to validate it. So I had an instinct and I had my own experience, but no evidence to support that what I was saying was true. And everyone was saying, no, Michael, you're the problem. Now, as I got older, it got reinforced. So these initial conversations got stronger and stronger and stronger. When I went to...
when you say conversations, you mean internal dialogue?
Yeah, my internal dialogue, my internal thoughts, my little voice in my head, the rackets in our head, right? The noise. So it got louder and louder and louder. When I went to my first training when I was 21 years old, I had all of these rackets in my head, and I thought they were true. And as a result of going through my transformational process, the training that I went through, I became a leader in my life. And part of being a leader in my life is taking charge and being responsible for those conversations that don't support me and don't support me in having what I want. So I picked up the phone, called my mother, and reached out to my mother and let her know that I was committed to transforming our relationship. And we began. It wasn't overnight, but over time, we developed a level of connection, a level of love, a level of trust, where it grew and grew and grew. And here we are now 30 years later, and we have an amazing relationship. And we can now look back at what happened when I was 10 and laugh. The other thing I want to say is my mother admitted it. All those things that I had made up that I thought were just me, you know, and maybe I'm crazy here, my mother admitted it. My mother said, it's true, I did this. It's true, I did that. I should have done this. I should have done that. And so it validated it. So I do think that in a lot of cases, kids are aware. They might not be fully aware of what the issues are, but they're aware there's things going on. And then over time, depending on how they learn to communicate and whether they learn to express their feelings or express their concerns or verbalize their thoughts, then over time they have the possibility to become more aware, more conscious, and then make other choices. So I was lucky, and I look at it as pure not just luck, but a blessing when I was 21 to be able to go through my transformational process and to let go of my past and let go of the past beliefs I had and past interpretations and past rackets and conversations, and then essentially from a clean space create a new way to see my life and a new way to see the world. And that included my relationship with my mother, but also my relationship with women, my relationship with people. I feel like I'm an excellent father today, not only because of what I have done over the last 30 years and the work I've done, but also because I've been able to learn from the things that my parents did that work. So my parents were not complete failures. They did plenty of things that really worked. But when you're a child, you're not thinking about the things that work. You're only thinking about the things that are horrible or suck. So I learn now from what my mom and dad did when I was a child, and then be able to bring those lessons into today, and then also adjust and adapt to the things that don't work.
I want to talk about your book before we get too carried off. Your book is your personal take on transformational work.
Yep.
Your 30 years of experience. Now, are you giving pointers or tips to people, or are you just talking about the work? Let's talk more about your first book.
Okay, great. Well, I'm very excited about it. It was one of my bucket list items.
Check.
Check, yeah. So I turned 50 last year, which is still shocking to me, but I just turned 50.
50 years young.
Yeah, and so I've been thinking about it and wanting to do it, and it was time to do it, and I sat down to do it. And I didn't want to do it just to do it. I wanted to do it about the work of transformation in my view. So the book is called Living on the Skinny Branches, and it's really about how we can create the life that we want and a life worth living. And the way that we do that is by taking risks. The way that we do that is by being courageous. The way that we do that is by essentially separating the forest from the trees. So when you think about standing on the top of the skinny branches of the tree, think about what that feeling might be like.
It's shaky. It's kind of, you're kind of like, whoa, maybe the wind's blowing. You think you're going to fall.
Yeah, it's vulnerable. So I'm vulnerable when I'm on the top of the tree. I'm at risk. I'm also alive. So it's not just focus on the fear factor and the, oh my God, I might fall and die. It's I'm alive. If you're on the top of the tree, your blood is pumping in your veins. Your heart is beating. You feel every cell and every fiber of life. And that's what a love relationship can be. And that's what a life worth living can be like. And that's what it takes. So think about business. If you want to be successful in business, how do you do that? You do that by declaring a vision, by taking risks, by being courageous, by owning your power and believing in yourself. Those are the people that become successful in business. Often, people that invent things but never become successful, it isn't because they don't have, let's say, creativity or some kind of genius or some type of amazing ability to engineer something. It's that they don't have the belief in themselves, the confidence in themselves, the courage to put it out there in the world. So I look back at people like Steve Jobs and people like Bill Gates and Sir Richard Branson as people that are visionary, not just entrepreneurs, but visionary risk takers, people who live on the skinny branches of the tree. In my book, I talk about all three of them. And one of the things that I talk about Sir Richard Branson is that this is a guy who didn't graduate high school, didn't go to college, and yet he is now one of the most successful and wealthy people in the world. And he's doing high-tech stuff. This guy is not just making money by, making widgets, okay? This guy is building a space plane.
You just answered actually one of my questions, because I was going to say, what about people who say, well, I don't have connections, I don't have the money, I don't have, insert excuse, whatever, to make it happen. I'm really smart and I'm a good inventor. I have a lot of good ideas, but sorry, Michael, I don't have any connections or whatever. Well,
that's true. First thing I'd say is, okay, great, that's true. So what are you going to do about it now? I mean, really? It's 2015. What are you going to do about it now? I mean, people make connections, create connections, social media. What really is missing is the courage and the risking. So let's go back to the skinny branches. So life happens on the skinny branches of the tree. So what I'm doing in the book is showing people through following steps. I made the steps very simple to follow, that if you do this and this and this and this, then you will be able to take those tools into your life and apply them into your professional life or your personal life to create not only the results, going back to results, not only the results you want, but the experience that you want in life. And when we're courageous and we're risk-taking, again, we're vulnerable. And through that vulnerability is where we express what really matters to us, where we express, whether it's in a business setting, the vision that we have. And we are powerful in our communication of that vision, and people get enrolled in it. It's an electric experience. It's a cause experience. Think of that term for a minute. So I'm standing at cause. I'm committed to making this happen. I'm not just putting it out there like, hey, do you think this might be a good idea? I'm enrolled in it. I'm committed to it. I'm completely invested in this idea, and then be able to convey that to another person or to a group of people in a way that they can get it too, and learning how to do that. Most people don't speak with impact. They just talk and words dribble out of their mouth. I mean, I look at Twitter every day. I look at Facebook every day, and I see people posting the most amazing, beautiful quotes that they did not write. They go on Google or whatever, and they take a picture of this awesome quote, then they put it up there. And some of those people I know, and they're the farthest from the person that would ever say something like that. So it'd be awesome if we weren't a bumper sticker, if people weren't this bumper sticker in life where they have this sort of like cute little saying, but we actually did it.
It's like I know a lot of women who have that live, laugh, love or sticker or thing in their house, or they love that song. I think there's a country song that's, you should always dance, right? And then we'll go, Andrew and I recently went to this love festival a couple years ago, and we were dancing and having fun, and nobody was dancing. Everyone was just staring at us. So it's okay to have a, you should dance, or life's all about dancing sticker. But then when you're there to dance and you're standing in the corner with your arms crossed judging people who are dancing, it's like, what the heck?
Exactly. Let's even get into that song a little bit. Okay. The song is called I Hope You Dance.
You dance, yes.
Now, how desperate are we that we're hoping that you dance? I don't want to hope my mother dances. I want my mother to dance. I mean, it's not the same thing. I don't hope you're successful. Hope is like a desperate plea. God, I hope I win the lottery so I can fund my business. I hope that if I sit here in Starbucks and I have a smile on my face, somebody will notice me and come over and say hello. No. How about forget hope? Get your ass into Starbucks and start talking to people. I go to Starbucks all the time. I see beautiful men, beautiful women. I see business people. How could somebody say I'm alone? I'm so alone and I live in Los Angeles. You're surrounded by human beings and opportunities to relate to connect with, friends, people that you could just, become connected with on a friendship level. It doesn't have to be beyond that. But if we make ourselves available, going back to living on the skinny branches, being vulnerable, being available, taking risks, being courageous, we're not alone. We're involved. We're connecting. We're building those connections and those relationships. So people that have not had the connections in the past, so what? What are you going to do now?
I like that you talk about that, but let's just zero in on what you just said. So I hope you dance. How important is the language that we say to ourselves on a daily basis? Because, there's this big push about your language is very important because it creates your reality. But I mean, is that true, or is that just some kind of, transformational mumbo jumbo?
Well, I think for some people it's transformational mumbo jumbo. Because there's plenty of people, and especially today, there's plenty of people in the world that use jargon and don't live the jargon. But in my experience, of the work of the last 30 years I've been doing, not just with other people, but myself, starting with me, is I totally 100% believe that I create my own reality. So I have conversations that show up sometime in my head, like I can't do this, or what if I fail? And the difference between me now and me 30 years ago is that's the only conversation that I had. Mm-hmm. The only thought I had was I'm not good enough, I'm not worthy, I'm not Larry. If I was Larry, things would be so much easier for me.
Because he has money, or he has this, or he has that.
He's the favorite. He's the prince. So I had it in my mind that I'm not who I could be, and I never will be. I didn't have alternatives. See, now I have alternatives, and I have alternatives because over the last 30 years, I've, number one, recognized what my limiting conversations are, what my limiting beliefs are, what those rackets sound like. So I'm aware of them when they show up. And then what I can do is change the thought. I can change my interpretation, and I have the power to do that because I'm responsible. So let's say I'm in traffic. If I'm sitting in traffic, which is a common thing here in LA, I don't have to automatically be angry. Is that like the rule? So you look it up in Google definition. So it says traffic in Los Angeles equals hate, anger, rage, violence. Why does it have to be that? Those are choices that people make.
It is. And I've seen people jamming out on the highway, and it actually brings a smile to my face.
Why not? I mean, my point is that's a choice too. No matter how mad you get, no matter how angry you are, no matter how frustrated you are, because we all know that you're the most important person in the world, and the traffic is in conspiracy to prohibit you from pursuing those dreams. We understand that. But if you can get past that for a minute, right, and just realize that none of that's going to make any difference.
Because the traffic's not moving if you get pissed or not.
I mean, what's it going to do? How's it working for you to get mad? The only thing that's happening is you're elevating your stress level. And we could take that same application and put it into relationships, or put it into your business life. So we have the power to change circumstances. We have the power to change the outcome and the results in our life, but it absolutely begins with how I see it. So we've all heard you could turn lemons into lemonade. Well, yes, that's true. I play golf. Let's go back to golf. Golf's a perfect mirror for life. My intention is to hit a good shot, but I don't always hit a good shot. Sometimes I'm in the woods. So if I'm in the woods, it's the same thing as being in traffic. I could be mad about it. I could be angry about it. How is that going to get me out of the woods? I'm in the woods. So the reality is here I am in this moment, in this spot. How I get from here to where I want to go, how I get from here to where I want to be, has everything to do with my attitude and my thoughts at this moment. If I'm standing there going, this sucks, I can't believe this, I'm a piece of crap, Larry would have never hit the ball in the trees, whatever my story is, the guys I'm playing with are cheating, it's so hot out here, the wind was blowing, didn't you feel that horrible gust of wind? It might have been like 0.5 miles per hour, and that blew my ball 50 yards over in the woods.
It wasn't my fault.
Yeah, it wasn't my fault. I'm such a good person. Okay? So, I could have made up all those stories, yes? But how is that going to improve my situation? I'm still in the tree. So the only way I'm going to get out of this tree and to the goal called get the ball in the hole as quickly as possible is to have not just a good attitude, but have the kind of attitude that will bring forth the best version of myself, the highest version of me. And that's not what most people do. Most people are out there, I think, in the world giving what I call drive-by love.
Okay.
Like this little flicker of who I am. Like I'm going to make myself available as a 5. I'm not going to be a 10. I'm going to be a 5. Now, when you give me all of you, and
then
you're
I'll put my feet in.
Then I'll open up the rest of my heart. But you got to prove to me. You got to jump through this hoop and that hoop, and you got to give me what I want, and you've got to prove to me that you're not a loser like all the other losers out there.
What about people that say, well, Michael, I've been hurt before. I've had so many bad ex-boyfriends. I've had so many bad ex-girlfriends. My ex-girlfriend cheated on me. How can I give 100% of my heart and be a 10 and show up like this if this person's not willing to do it? What about people that say that?
Okay, it's a legitimate question. So let me first say, you can't. You can't now in the moment because those are your feelings. Those are your emotions. Those are your thoughts. And so what you need to do and what a healthy person would do is to process those feelings, those thoughts, and those experiences. So let's go back to childhood for a minute. A tool that we all had, all of us were masters and had experts in this tool. It's called processing feelings. So you're 4 years old, you're playing on the swing. You're going faster. You're going higher. You're really going for it. You're on the skinny branches of the swing. And then all of a sudden, you fly off at the highest part and you fall on your back and you're hurt. What do? You cry. You cry. You might scream. You vent your emotions. Well, you're 4 years old. You fell off the swing. What are you going to do? Sit there and go, I'm okay. I got it. Don't touch me. No, not there. All right. No, you feel it. You feel it. You cry, you scream, you yell, you vent, you let it go. And then what do you say at 4 years old? I'm never getting back on the swing again.
You get back on the swing.
That swing is evil. It's an evil swing. All swings are out to get me. Of course you don't say that. You're only 4. You don't make up that anything is a fact. You don't make up that anything is the way it is forever. You just made up you got hurt right now, and you cry, scream, yell, vent, and you let it go. And then you get back on the swing. So what I'm saying is, take that now to adult life. You gave 100% of yourself. You were vulnerable in the relationship. You were connected in the relationship. You thought he or she loved you, and then somebody cheated, or they said one day, I don't love you anymore. Are you going to be hurt? Of course you're going to be hurt. You're going to be devastated. So what do? You go back to what every human being has, which is the basic ability to feel their feelings, to experience their experience. You find a friend, you find a coach, you find a training that you can go to. And what you do is you process those feelings. You let it out. You experience it. You keep going until you're done. And when you're done, you let it go because you're still alive. And what do you want? The next 10 years, 20 years, 50 years of your life to be recycling the past of that painful moment with this person? If you do that, which you have that choice to do, then I can guarantee you your next relationship will turn out exactly the same or worse. That's why divorce is 60%, 82%. So if you want the next one to be a transformed relationship, a whole new possibility, well, then you get to be the new and improved version of yourself. And you get to do that first by cleaning and clearing and letting go.
So it sounds like what you're saying is a lot of people, maybe since we're by the airport, to use the airport metaphor, have some baggage and you want to just drop that baggage off and throw it in the dumpster. You don't want to take it to the next relationship.
Yeah, well, we all have baggage because we've all had painful moments. We've all had painful experiences, whether they're professional or personal. I mean, think about how many salespeople or business people who have big ideas and goals and commitments and strategies, and they set out, and when they set out to do it, what are they doing? Setting out to fail? No, of course not. They're setting out to succeed. They're setting out to reinvent a business or reinvent a product or a service. And the thing is, as they get out there, sometimes they hit a wall. Sometimes the wall is an external wall, like the economy. You know, how many people had new businesses that they were starting in 2007 and 2008 and got crushed because of the economic breakdowns that happened in 2008, 9, and 10? It doesn't mean their product was bad, doesn't mean the business was bad or the idea was bad. It just might have been horrible timing. So what I'm saying is we've all had professional breakdowns, personal breakdowns, and yes, it results in baggage. But what we've got to learn how to do is learn how to release it and let it go. And that process is the distinction between creating the future that we want, a new life, a new extraordinary life, or more of the same. So I'm not saying
rehashing what the past.
I'm not saying that if somebody cheated on you, you don't have a right to be mad. Of course you do. At him. Just because your ex cheated does not mean all men are dogs. Yes. All men are dogs is a cynical thought and a cynical conversation. And if you go to happy hour, everyone will agree with you. But then ask yourself, once you're done with everybody agreeing with you, and now everybody says you're right, are you better off?
You're validated, and you are going to bring that belief system of men or pigs, whatever, into your next relationship, and that's not good.
Well, it's not good if that's not what you want. But if you're out on a mission, once this has happened, to prove over and over again that men are dogs, then what are you? I mean, you might not have been the ultimate cause of the breakdowns of relationships, but you've now inherited it, and that inheritance shows up in your actions and your behaviors. You know, Gandhi said, an eye for an eye makes the whole world blind. So nobody is excusing somebody who cheats, someone who is out of integrity, someone who lies, someone who's selfish in a relationship. Everybody has a right to feel their feelings and feel their emotions, but what they get to do is remember what's at stake. What's at stake is your future. What's at stake is the next 10 years, 20 years, 30, 50 years
next
of
marriage,
your life.
Next relationship,
yes.
whatever.
How do you want the rest of your life to be? So if you want it to be the relationship that you want, the life that you want, then that requires rolling up your sleeves and doing the work with yourself to transform. And that is definitely what we're talking about right now, what I talk about in my book, and also what we've been doing and what I've been doing in the work of transformation for 30 years.
Now, even though transformation is an internal process and an internal work that you have to do within yourself, it's not necessarily a lone wolf type of activity. Is that correct? You do need friends, family, maybe a life coach, a program that you can take, a psychologist, whatever. Because a lot of people sometimes think, well, I don't need to take a class, or I don't need to do this. I can just process myself. Is that true? Or do people, I mean, it is a type of community activity in that way.
Well, I want to say that everybody's different, number one. And some people's ability to become a self-cleaning oven is better than others. There's also a little thing I like to call ego.
Okay. A very big thing.
A little thing I like to call ego. And sometimes our ego tells us that we can handle things that we really can't handle. And what it becomes is an excuse not to handle it. So
I can do it myself. I don't need anyone, whatever.
Yeah. And let's just say, here's what I would say to that person, depending on who they are. If it's a friend, I would look at their track record.
Okay.
And I would say, okay, so I've known this person for 20 years, 30 years, whatever it is, 50 years. What's their track record? In the past, when they've had issues or challenges, have they handled it? And if the answer is yes, then I would probably say, okay, maybe that's the best way for you. And because I love them and I care about them, I'd still follow up with them. I'd still continue to connect. But what I would also do is give them the benefit of the doubt, because maybe that could work. But if that person does not have a track record of handling the things that we're discussing, or the things that are upsetting them or hurting them or holding them back in life, then it's probably more ego and more of an excuse. So therefore, I'd be an interruption, and I would take on that person. Look, years and years ago, my mother used to smoke cigarettes, and I could have said it's not my problem, but that's not what I did. I basically was a major interruption in my mother's life. I used to, and I'm not recommending this, so anybody who's listening.
Okay.
But I'm going to tell you what I did. My mother would give me a shopping list, and at the end of the shopping list would be cigarettes, so eggs, milk, whatever, and cigarettes. And I would go to the store and not buy her cigarettes. And I was paying prices because my mother was mad.
Would she throw a fit?
Oh, my God, of course. Threaten me, you got to go back. I wouldn't do it. I just refused to do it. So I was like in trouble all the time.
Then, and this is when you were a kid?
Yes. Oh, yeah. And you know what else I used to do? Take her cigarette boxes and scrunch them. I would take her cigarette boxes and throw them out.
Oh, my God.
I would take her cigarettes and I would break her cigarettes and put them back in the box. I would hide my mother's cigarettes. I think at the time it pretty much it depended on how much of it was my caring about my mother and how much of it was wanting to be a thorn in her side. So I'm not going to lie, I had a little bit of both. But what I'm saying is no matter how I did it, it was absolutely an interruption. And over time, my mother stopped smoking and realized that she needed to do that for obvious reasons, her health and so on. So I think that in a perfect world, people would just handle things, or we might mention it to them. Hey, do you think that this is the best thing for you to do? And they go, yeah, no, it isn't. And I think I'm going to stop. And they would just do it. But that's not what happens. So back to your point about family and friends and having a coach, I think that is a phenomenal way to do things. And it's also a phenomenal way to reinforce things. One of the great benefits of living transformation is surrounding myself with other like-minded people. Why is that a good thing? Ferns don't grow in the desert. So you think of a beautiful fern, it needs an environment to grow. So if I'm the only person in all of my family and friends who's vulnerable and willing to be vulnerable, and everyone else is cynical, Michael, tone it down. Stop telling your wife how much you love her. Michael, stop hugging your wife. Every time you hug your wife, I get very uncomfortable. And then I go, oh, well, I'm sorry for making you uncomfortable. I won't hug the wife anymore. I mean, how is that going to work for me? Does that support me in growing and continuing to express and maybe going deeper? No, it supports me in shutting down. So we're in a conspiracy. Our culture is a conspiracy of mediocrity, a conspiracy of fitting in. Everything's about fitting in, which, going back to Donald Trump for a minute, I actually like the fact that he speaks his mind. Even though I don't agree with many of the things he says, I do like the fact that he's willing to say it. There's no question as to his feelings about women. Nobody's wondering, does Jeb Bush support women, not support women? He's such a politician. Every time he opens his mouth, he says something kind of different. It's hard to really tell. No. You listen to Donald Trump, all you need to do is within 5 minutes, you know exactly where he stands on everything, whether you like it or not. But at least you know.
Actually, this goes back to what you originally said about trying to be a success and just kind of flopping yourself out there. Donald Trump is very successful, and he's been successful in this presidential because he's very passionate about what he says. So, we can actually learn that lesson from him, but maybe not push the message he's pushing.
Yeah, I mean, what would be phenomenal is if he could say his point of view about things, but also say it in a proactive way. So
instead of such a cynical.
Yeah, he doesn't. He's very cynical, but he's also condemning and mean-spirited in a lot of his comments. I mean, let's say that the other night there's a lot of conversation in the last couple of days about Megyn Kelly and the question that she asked him and his response to the question and like that. Look, I don't have a problem with her question because I actually think it was a legitimate question. He only made it worse by his answer. Mm-hmm. So what really would have been great and would be phenomenal if Donald Trump could say, I apologize for being disrespectful to women. That's not really what I meant, or that's not what I intended to do. And so I apologize for that. Here's what my vision is for women, or here's how I see women, or here's what my stand is for women. He could have rebounded, which is what I think a lot of people wanted to see him do, or the people that haven't decided about him yet. But his focus is on the cynical, negative, insulting. He's very insulting. I mean, standing up there with people, calling them all losers. I mean, that's just not a thing to say. I mean, I travel a lot internationally and do my work internationally, and talk to people all the time in other countries and ask them, hey, how do you feel about the United States? What's your experience of the United States? What are your thoughts about Americans? What are your thoughts about our politics? And I listen to what they have to say, and I'm blown away by the things that they say. And many of the things that they say is a negative experience based on our politics. Like you mentioned the word George Bush internationally. I mean, the things that come back are mind-blowing in terms of how embarrassing it is and how insulting it is, and how a great country like the United States could elect somebody like that. And the thing is, they're not even living here. Mm-hmm. And that's their perception of us. And so they have high standards. They think of the United States almost everywhere I go as this beacon of light and beacon of what's possible. And then we come back with some of the people that we come back with, and some of the public dialogue, and it just blows people's minds that that's the kind of stuff that we're doing over here. So
it sounds like taking, a lot of negative conversation personally, and maybe learning how to rework that as well in our lives, because you said there's a lot of cynicism, there's a lot of, negative talk or mediocrity in our society. So learning to reframe and relook at, it sounds like our belief systems. I want to go back to when we were talking about using a friend or using a relative and ego and all that. What about people's blind spots? Because I know that there's a lot of people out there that think they're one way, but actually they're another. I know people that think they're very loving and compassionate, but they come off as very negative or angry or whatever.
Well, that's an interesting point. First of all, I think a lot of people have blind spots. Most people I work with have blind spots. The difference is that they're open to looking and open to working on themselves.
So for those of you who are listening who don't know what blind spots are, how would you describe a blind spot?
Blind spot is a breakdown or an issue or something that I'm doing or a way that I'm behaving that doesn't work for other people and doesn't produce the results that I say I want, and I'm not aware of it. I don't get it. I'm not seeing that in myself.
It's kind of like when you're driving and you have your blind spot, you can't see the other car, right? Yeah. So it's something about yourself. Maybe you have a temper and you think, oh, I don't have a temper, or something like that. Is that correct?
Exactly.
Okay,
somebody who's judgmental, who doesn't think they're judgmental, they're passionate.
Yeah. They see it as passion.
Yeah, they see it as passion. Oh, I'm just being passionate about my hate for men.
Okay.
Well, just the fact that you are hating is judging, and you might have a lot of heat there, but heat and passion are not necessarily the same thing either.
Or people who are very controlling, and everyone's told, I meet this a lot, people who are very controlling and maybe need things to be a certain way, and they're like, no, I'm helping. I'm not controlling, I'm helping, right?
Well, you know what? Controlling, interesting that you mentioned controlling. Controlling, yeah, people that are controlling have a tendency to not listen to what other people have to say, because that's part of the nature of being controlling. Is I'll tell you what you think. Let me just I'll let you know what I want you to say to me. And then they also tend to hear what they want to hear. So it's a lot of la 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 la.
Selective hearing, right?
Exactly. Earmuffs, la 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 la. And then they make up that they're a certain way. And look, one of the things that I think is super valuable that we don't do in our society, but we do in coaching and transformational work, is feedback.
Yes.
Okay. Feedback is essential, and there's always feedback in life. We just don't always look at it.
Or listen to it.
We don't look at it. We certainly don't always listen to it, but feedback is super important. How do I know that I am who I say I am? How do I know that my life is what I say that my life is? It's important that we look at the results, whether it be tangible results like money or business success, or let's say the things that we have in life, but it's also important about the relationships that we have. So, for example, what's the appropriate or right amount of time to talk to your mom and dad if you're an adult? I don't really know. I think it's different for everybody. I know myself, I talk to my mother probably 3 times a week. I talk to my dad, let's say once every couple of weeks, but I'm in communication with them. I know where my dad is. I know what he's up to. I also know what my dad needs. And so that requires awareness, that requires consciousness, it requires sensitivity. So my dad is not the kind of person that wants to talk every day on the phone.
I think that's most dads.
Yeah, well, it probably is.
We're both laughing.
It probably is. And so the thing is that, you know, knowing what my dad needs, knowing what my dad wants, and also having my wants and my needs and marrying those together, we've established a communication and a consistency in our communication where we can build that relationship. So let's say there was a time a few years ago, I was not in regular communication with my dad. Remember, he doesn't need to talk every day.
Okay.
But there was a period of time where, I don't know, maybe I hadn't talked to him in a few months. I can't remember what it was exactly, but let's say a few months. And it wasn't on purpose. Like consciously, I didn't go, I don't want to talk to my dad.
You were just
and I
busy
wasn't
or
mad.
whatever.
Yeah, I was busy and just caught up and time got away from me. So when I got on the phone with my dad, I could sense and tell that something was kind of off. And that's called feedback. And so I asked him, hey, Dad, are you okay? Is everything okay? You seem like something's bothering you. And my dad, I gave permission to my father to open up and tell me. And he expressed to me that he was very disappointed, that he was hurt, that I hadn't called him or that I hadn't reached out to him or that I hadn't made an effort in the relationship. And it took me, first of all, by shock or by surprise because I was just not aware and not present. And I had thought that I had been in communication. And then in looking at it and listening to what he had to say, I could see that actually it had been a while since I had shown him that I care, shown him that I love him and made the effort in the relationship. And so when I got that feedback, I received that feedback, I immediately shifted and took it upon myself, no matter where I am, no matter what I'm doing, to reach out to him.
And sometimes feedback can be not direct if you're dealing with someone who maybe has passive aggressive communication or something. You know, there's always the typical, you ask your significant other how they're doing and they say fine, but they're huffing and puffing or whatever.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
That happens all the time. But that goes back to my own consciousness, awareness, or care. So with my wife is a less direct person than me. So if I have an issue, I'm going to tell her right away. Often if my wife has an issue, she's going to be one of those people that's fine.
I'm fine.
Yeah, I'm fine. And so if I'm aware, which I generally am, and if I care, which I do 100%, then I'm going to sense how she's being and how she's responding to me. And that is a form of feedback. So even if she's not saying it, it's that kinesthetic feeling, the connection, the intuition, senses. I can feel it inside that something's going on. And then either I'll pursue it or she'll pursue it, but eventually we'll work it out.
And feedback is just a sign that you're not on track. It's not something to take personal. You know, some people go into beat up mode and they go, oh, well, you know, I pissed off my wife. Oh, I'm a scumbag, blah, blah, blah. How could I do this? How could I not? You know, they go into this whole nonsensical conversational in their head.
Yeah.
Jibber jabber.
Yeah. Feedback really, I look at it and the way I talk about it is that feedback is information. Mm-hmm. So it's a neutral event. How I feel about it and how I interpret it is not so neutral. Yeah. So feedback is just words and information. And if I can look at it from a responsible point of view or listen to it from a responsible point of view, then I welcome the feedback, I take in the feedback, I digest the feedback, and then I work with it to implement it into my life. One of the reasons that my relationship with my wife is excellent is because we are in that relationship where we give each other feedback. And it doesn't mean it's always negative feedback. I mean, most of the time it's not just positive feedback, it's amazing feedback. It's who loves who more. You know, one of the best fights I have with my wife is I love you more. No, I don't. I love you more. And you know what? Birthdays.
That's really cute. That's really cute.
It is. And birthdays, Valentine's Day, Christmas, these are the worst holidays in the world for me because I have to outdo whatever I did last year and I'm running out of ideas.
That's not ego, Michael. A little.
It's a little. But you know what it really is? It's just, it's wanting her to feel special. More than anything, it's wanting her to feel special. It's wanting her to, it's not about the gift. It's about the experience and wanting it to be new and fresh, and for her to be empowered, and for us to have our relationship be growing and flourishing, every chance that I get. I mean, that's my commitment. And that's part of the reason that I am in love. I mean, most relationships are dying, and, that passion is waning, and we take each other for granted. And, we watch TV, staring at the TV. We're in the same room. We don't make eye contact, or we even email each other from the same house, or text each other from the same house. We don't even text anymore. I love you. It's ILY. It takes too much effort to say I actually love you. So,
or I'll see the couples at the restaurants and they're eating together and they just look miserable.
Yeah, exactly.
And gritting their teeth in silence, or texting someone else while they're at the table with their spouse.
Exactly. So I'm committed, and this is the thing. It's not automatic pilot. I'm committed. I'm dedicated to creating the relationship to be a higher level and a new possibility each day and each opportunity in my life. So it's a challenge.
Is there a way to give constructive feedback to your significant other or a friend or family member or business that if it's negative, that's not maybe insulting? Or what would you suggest to someone who, is like, hey, I want to take my relationship and have there be more honest communication? How can I communicate with my, spouse or family member that they're injuring me or hurting me or causing some type of pain without them taking it personal or whatever?
Okay, that's a great question. First of all, yes, there is. Timeliness is essential. So when there is an issue or a breakdown that needs to be addressed in your relationship, the worst thing you could do is put it on hold and stuff it and tell yourself, I'll do it tomorrow, or I'll do it later, or whatever. Mm-hmm. Why? Because the moment that issue is happening, what's happening is you're disconnecting in the relationship and you're starting to build your case. So one of the things...
Okay.
one of the ways that I talk about ego is I say that, for me, ego is like being the client of Johnny Cochran.
Okay.
Okay. So Johnny Cochran, in my opinion, is the greatest lawyer in the history of America. So Johnny Cochran was OJ's lawyer, and somehow, some way, got OJ off. I mean, for 20 years later, I still don't understand it, but he got the job done. I mean, that's his job: get his client off, and he did it. So we become Johnny Cochran. Our ego is our client. And what we start to do is we gather evidence. And we gather evidence.
Why the other person's wrong or whatever. Okay.
So the longer you make something fester that you don't resolve or you don't address directly, it builds. And when it builds, that means you build other pieces and other layers and other things.
Well, she always does this. He always does this. This is why men are idiots.
Yeah.
Whatever.
So maybe it began with something simple like she left the toothpaste cap off in the sink.
Okay.
For the toothpaste. And I don't like when she does that. Okay. So it could be just really simple. Hey, Rosie, is there any way that you could put the toothpaste cap on when you're done, please? I would really appreciate it. Yeah. Okay, great. I love you. Thank you. No big deal. Simple feedback, easy feedback.
Okay.
Well, let's say you don't do it. And now the next day, there's clothes on the floor. Oh, I seem to be picking up clothes every day. Okay, so that's kind of annoying. And the next day you're making your coffee and you go into the refrigerator and the milk is in the refrigerator, but it's empty. There's no milk in it. Okay, and I go shopping, and I'm the one who goes shopping all the time, and, he never goes shopping. So my point is, like, a simple thing typically gets exasperated over time because we build our case.
As you said, if it's not let go.
Yes, and the letting go of it begins by saying it and by communicating it, which is why I said timeliness. So timeliness means as soon as possible, whenever it is that you're feeling it, take it to your partner and communicate it. The other thing is how you communicate it. Ask permission. Most of the time, we don't give feedback. We're angry, and we communicate this angry, reactive message. So it doesn't come out as a neutral thing. It comes out as mean or angry, and then that reaction typically causes another reaction in the other person. So if we do it timely, and then we ask for permission, like, can I say something to you that's,
can I tell you something that bugs me? Yeah.
Can I tell you something that bugs me or that's on my mind? The only reason I'm telling you this is because I love you.
And I don't want it to fester.
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, I love you, and I'm committed to us, and I'm committed to our relationship growing, and that's why I want to say this. It has nothing to do with my judging you. So that's the other part too. If feedback is a judgment, then I have no intention of getting off it. I just want to be right. And I want them to say, you're right. You're right, I did this and it's a bad thing. You're right, I did this and I shouldn't have done it. So it's like you're shaming the other person.
So let me make a distinction for the listeners who might not understand. So what Michael is saying is that if you're giving feedback to correct the issue and not to shame or judge the other person. Is that correct?
Yeah, then you can move the relationship forward. The other thing is let's say I give you this feedback. Hey, it really bothers me when you don't put the toothpaste cap on. Can you please do it? Yes. Okay. You can also move into a request. I have a request of you, which then is proactive.
What if the person loves you more than anything, but they just never put the toothpaste cap back on?
Couple of things. Okay. Either you need to be an interruption at some point because you'll be out of integrity with yourself because it drives you crazy.
Okay.
Or you need to accept the person and realize this is just what they do. Because if you don't, you're going to be miserable, right? Well, I mean, what are your options? You're miserable because I keep asking them and it's driving me crazy and da-da-da-da-da. And where's that going to go?
So
or
when
you just realize that's just the way it is. It's
so
part
when
of the
you
deal.
say interruption to yourself, explain that.
Interruption to the person.
Got it.
That's what I was saying. So in other words, I've asked you 5 times nicely or 3 times nicely. You said you would and you're not doing it. So being an interruption might look like, okay, I would like to say something to you and it's really important that you listen. And is this a good time to do it? And do I have your permission? And if they say yes, or until they say yes, I don't do it. And then when they say yes, I do it. And I let them know how I'm feeling. So there's more than one way to do it. If I say you, then the person could feel attacked. But if I say, here's how I feel.
Taking responsibility for yourself.
I'm experiencing when you do this. Then the focus is on me and the effect on me.
Not blaming, pointing, whatever.
Correct. And often when people stand responsible for an issue or a breakdown in a relationship, then it actually creates permission for the other person to do the same thing. I can't tell you how many times I've seen breakdowns, whether it's in my own life or other people, where they're saying, I'm sorry for this and I really shouldn't have done this and I can't believe I did this. And then the next thing you know, the person is doing the same thing. And now they're in a fight over who's responsible for the breakdown. Who doesn't want to be in a fight like that? That's a fight worth having. Look, being in a relationship is about fighting. I mean, it's not an easy thing, no matter what the relationship is. And
it's just how quickly it gets resolved and how you handle it. Yeah,
and look, we're the only animal in the animal kingdom world that actually stands up and declares a monogamous commitment to another animal. I mean, lions aren't doing that. Okay,
I know they're in a pack with like 5 or 6 other pride, whatever. They're all having orgies.
Yeah, and then you know, and you know, any animal in the animal kingdom, you know, a bear, you know, they make another bear, and you got a little baby bear, and the baby bear's with the mother bear, and then after like a year, they just disappear and they never see each other again. So the nature of relationships in the entire animal kingdom is it's temporary or it's for a period of time, and then you're 18, time to go on your own. The nature of humans is we commit at 20 years old for better or worse, richer or poorer, till the end of our life. At 20. I mean, who's the same person at 20 they are at 30? I mean, what are we talking about? You can't even buy a drink at 20.
You're very funny, Michael. Unfortunately, we have to wrap up. I want to know, is there anything else that you would like the listeners to know about transformation coaching, your coaching business, your book, which will be available on Amazon and hopefully bookstores in the next few months?
Yes. Well, my book, as I said, is entitled Living on the Skinny Branches. I think my book is really a powerful tool and a valuable tool. It's also simple. I've made it so that whether you're in transformation or you are just looking for an edge in your life and you don't or haven't participated in transformational trainings or workshops, I made the book understandable for anybody and everybody. And I really think that the book is something I'm very proud of because it was, as I said, a bucket list item, but also something that I've been passionate about for 30 years. I love people. I am committed to creating extraordinary results in not only my life, but in other people's lives. I see people in their best. I see people in the highest version of themselves. And I believe that we all have the power to create our dreams. What I see is that most of us are surviving. Most of us are existing. Most of us are not accessing the highest possibility for ourselves.
The mediocrity level.
The mediocrity. We settle, and it inspires me. It doesn't make me mad. It inspires me. So when I see people, I see them as clay. I see them as potential. I see them as infinite possibility, and I'm passionately committed to people discovering what that possibility is and then living it in their life. People get to be extraordinary. This is the only life we have. Life is not a dress rehearsal. This is the real deal. And I want to leave everything, on the field. And I want everybody to have that same attitude. And if they do, they'll be on the skinny branches creating extraordinary results in their own life. So I'm passionate about it. And I just, I love what I do. It's a privilege.
That's awesome. And if this episode gets released before your book is released, whenever your book is available, send it to us and we'll add the link for people to be able to get it. So if you feel stuck in your life or if you feel like you're living a mediocre life, go out and get Living on the Skinny Branches, and hopefully there will be some information in there that can support you to being your highest self.
Yes.
Thank you so much for being a part of the show, Michael.
Thank you, Rosie. It's been great.
I wish you the best of luck with your coaching business. Do you do one-on-one coaching for people who are interested?
I do, yes.
And do you have a website?
My website is being created right now and launched with my book, so it'll be out within the next month or so.
Okay, so we'll have that information available for you guys. And as always, you can check us out on outoftheboxpodcast.com. Don't forget, September 19th, LA Podfest. I will be there live, the main event, Saturday at 7 p.m., and I'll be doing autographs after the podcast. And it is $59. You can get tickets at lapodfest.com. And if you cannot make it to the LA area, the Sofitel Hotel in Beverly Hills, then you can live stream the podcast for $25 with a $5 off coupon. It will be $20 at lapodfest.com with coupon code Rosie. That's ROSIE, coupon code Rosie. As always, I'm at Twitter at Funny Rosie, and you can visit us on iTunes and Stitcher. Please leave a positive comment on our iTunes. That helps us out a lot. This has been Out of the Box Podcast with Rosie Tran.